Amelia, Island, Aftermath. We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please hit the subscribe button. Smash the like button if you like our content. And share the video with your family and your friends. If you want to support this College Football Rebel Outpost YouTube channel with a donation to help us keep the lights on, hit that $sign, make a comment, and I will get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome, everybody, into the studio that sits on the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway in Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. Wednesday, May 15th. I got a question. Does Florida State and Clemson, I got two questions. I've got two questions. Does Florida State and Clemson, do they need UNC, Chapel Hill to get into the fight? Do they need UNC to jump on in? Remember the great bull rush we were talking about months ago? to get this settlements going. Does Clemson and Florida State need UNC? And the second question is, are they going to get UNC to join the fight? That's my two questions for you. We're going to be talking about the aftermath of Amelia Island. What happened in the spring meetings. We're going to be talking about what's going on at UNC. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be going live. PATC. We're going to be covering the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill Board of Trustees meeting, the open session part. It starts 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. So we'll probably come on live about 8:45 in the morning Eastern time. 7:45 in the morning Central time. 6:45 in the morning Mountain time. 5:45 in the morning Pacific time. So join us. We're going to watch it. I can't promise you a rose garden. I don't know if there's going to be any. I think there's going to be some useful information, possibly some drama, possibly some heated moments. Bubba Cunningham is going to be at the meeting. We know John Pryor, the chair, is going to talk in public. We know that Lee Roberts, the interim chancellor of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, is going to make some remarks in public. And then eventually, they're going to turn off the camera. They're going to turn off the camera. We're going to get booted out. The PATC community is going to get booted out, and then they're going to go into closed session. And at some point, in accordance to the agenda, they're going to get remarks from legal counsel. And we believe here at Peek Around the Corner that this might be the starting block of UNC getting prepared in some way, some fashion to go to the Board of Governors. So we're going to be following that. So today, we're going to be talking about UNC. We're going to go through an article from Matt Baker, the great Matt Baker from the Tampa Bay Times. We put the link in the description box below the video. You can you can read the whole article after we're done with the live show. And then we're going to go through a list of tweets from reporters that were at Amelia Island. Jim Phillips had some stuff to say. Other people had some stuff to say. And we're going to go over the aftermath. And I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell you what other people, some people that we talk to, think. And then I want to hear what you guys believe. What is about to happen next? This is going to be a grind. This whole thing, since December 26, 2022, when we first reported to you the happenings that was about to happen with Florida State, we said it was going to be a grind, and it is a grind. And everyone is trenched in. Let's get to it. First of all, let me thank everybody who's come on in at the beginning of this early afternoon. Lunchtime, you want to call it. Wednesday, May 15th show, GT is in the house. Early Peak member Gary Goldnose is here. Moth Prof. DP, Mr. Clemson Tiger is here. Preston from Greensboro, Go Heels. AMAC, David Hackett. Crab Cakes and Football, Mr. Terrapin is here. Another Terrapin is here. JD Turtle. Derek Marie, Matt Higgins. Roll Tide Roll. Matt Higgins is in the house. Nick Boardman. Skaven Yes Yes, the Chief fan. Susan is here. Mr. Hurricane Rock and Rant. Clean up on the meat and cheese aisle on Amelia Island. Holy smokes. KS Bear Fan is here. The Architect. The Architect, no drums. No drums. I was scrambling. I was scrambling. Mr. Buckeye Jared Jones is here. John Menser, good morning. Jan is here. We're filling up early. Holy smokes. The Grateful Trojan, good morning. PATC. Gene Watson, what's up? Football Junkies. Jen Fari is here. Amazing Blue. The Architect. Immaculate is here. The Big Lubbock. P. Lit. Expedition Greg. Tracy from FSU. Mr. Georgia Bulldogs. Don Scruggs is in the house. Stephen McNeely. Holy smokes. Kurt P. Clinton Moses. Daryl Harlow. Carlton Hurdle. Go Frogs. And Royal Payne. Bama again is in the house. Okay, let's get to it. Let's not waste any more time. I know a lot of people are busy. You're at your lunch hour. Let's get to it. First of all, we're going to hit Matt Baker. The great Matt Baker, Tampa Bay Times article this morning. Boy, I got to tell you. Well, we'll get into it. What's UNC's future in the ACC amidst conference realignment? The rumblings in Chapel Hill. Are starting to sound like the rumblings that preceded Florida State's lawsuit against the league. There are rumblings. A couple weeks ago, we reported to you an exclusive, a PATC exclusive, that the money perch was now galvanized, now organized, had one event, was scheduled to do another event. They're talking to the leadership. Yeah, that's rumbling. That's where it begins usually. That is a rumbling. Amelia Island, an hour into Monday's presentation by NCAA President Charlie Baker, North Carolina Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham ducked out to take a phone call. It's the type of mundane administrative act that would normally be easy to ignore at an event like the ACC spring meetings. But these are not normal times for the ACC or one of the biggest wild cards in college sports. Hours before the league meetings began at the Ritz-Carlton, North Carolina, the Board of Trustees held its own meeting about the budget. The remarks in Chapel Hill sounded a lot like the remarks at Florida State meetings that preceded its lawsuit against the ACC. Florida State's athletic director Michael Alford in February 2023, that was 2 months after our live show on December 26, 2022, when the Florida State Money Perch told us, and we reported to you, that in 2 months, we're going to hear from Florida State. And in 2 months, we heard from Florida State. February 2022, Michael Alford, we cannot be $30 million behind every year compared to our peers. Our peers, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, USC, that is the peers that Florida State is talking about. North Carolina trustee Dave Bolick on Monday. It's not getting any better in terms of funding. In our ability to fund and compete at the highest level with the current amount of resources that athletic department generates, with the amount of money that we receive or do not receive from the ACC. Florida State trustees Deborah Sargent in August. We don't want to have to do this. We don't want to have to do this, but we have to do what it takes to compete. Here is the PATC money shot. Here is the PATC money shot of the article. North Carolina trustee Vinay Patel on Monday. Now, if you watched along with us on Monday during our live show, and if you missed it, go back to our Monday live show. Near the second half of the live show, we watched a recorded stream inside the North Carolina Board of Trustees meeting. By the way, we're going to do the same thing Thursday morning, tomorrow morning. We watched it, and it got heated. And if those in the PATC chat room, if you remember how the screen showed up to you, it was Mr. Meekins on the bottom right-hand corner. It was Lee Roberts on the upper right-hand corner. On the bottom left-hand corner, that was Vinay Patel. That was Vinay Patel on the bottom left part of the screen. And then the upper left part box, that was the rest of the people, the Board of Trustees. Back to the article. The PATC money shot. North Carolina trustee Vinay Patel on Monday. The expectation is enormous from the alumni side, and we need to make sure that we're doing right by what we have, and then moving forward, what are we going to need? The expectation is enormous from the alumni side. That is talking in code. What Mr. Vinay Patel is saying is the expectation is enormous. We're getting phone calls, the knocking on the door from the North Carolina money perch, the boosters, large, medium size, and the minnows. The expectation is enormous. And those people on the alumni side, the money perch. Now, as we reported to you a few weeks ago, an exclusive, they have been and continue to be activated. And so now the Board of Trustees are acting on that activation. They are squirming. Vinay Patel finally mentions them, because that's what this is. If that wasn't clear enough, Bolick told Raleigh WRAL TV he's advocating for a move to a richer league. We need to do everything we can get. We need to do everything we can to get there. There is the SEC or the Big Ten. I think all options are on the table, which, combined with the trustees' concerns about the Tar Heels athletic budget and the administrator who oversees it, made Cunningham's 7-minute phone calls seem much more interesting than it probably was. So when Cunningham went out of the meeting to take a phone call, did Matt Baker or somebody else put a time clock on it? Did they? All eyes are on UNC. All eyes on Bubba Cunningham. All eyes will be on the UNC Board of Trustees meeting tomorrow. Again, join us here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. We're going to be doing a live stream starting at 9 o'clock, about 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Come join us. It must be noted, too, that Cunningham accused Florida State of barking. We covered that when Cunningham said that. Instead of simply leaving the league and moving on. Cunningham accused Florida State of barking instead of simply leaving the league and moving on. Those didn't sound like the comments of an administrator looking to exit and clash with the comments of the trustees, plural, who aren't bullish on the ACC. What does all this mean, Matt Baker, the Tampa Bay Times? What does all this mean, he asked. Maybe nothing, but maybe a lot. Though Florida State and Clemson are the ACC's football powers, the Tar Heels might be the bigger target for the Big Ten and or the SEC. North Carolina has premier academics in basketball. The state is the third fastest growing in the country, ranks 9 in total population, and doesn't have a presence from either of the Power Two yet. If North Carolina is seriously considering an exit, the school's tactics have been relatively quiet. The Tampa Bay Times requested the contracts of any legal firms the school has used to explore conference realignment. The school said last week it had no existing or responsive university records subject to disclosure under the state's public records law. UNC hasn't clarified if that means the school hasn't hired any outside attorneys or if its contracts are shielded from disclosure. Regardless, North Carolina is the soul of the ACC. Perhaps the league could survive without Florida State and Clemson, but if the Tar Heels take Tobacco Road out of town to the Big Ten or the SEC, all bets are off. That's all context for what bubbled up at the UNC's trustees meeting and boiled over into the lobby of the ACC meetings. When a conference viability is in question, every mundane word or action gets magnified. Like an athletic director stepping out to answer the phone. Again, I just wanted to point this one more time. This is the PATC money shot of this article. North Carolina trustees Vinay Patel on Monday. The expectation is enormous from the alumni side. He's saying the word enormous because he's heard from them in a coordinated, agitated manner within the last few weeks. We need to make sure that we are doing right by what we have. In other words, doing an audit, making sure we're managing the athletic department correctly, and then moving forward. What are we going to need? Because we can't be dipping in 3 times into the boosters' wallets to make ourselves competitive. That is not going to happen. So you can see the national report is everybody now has their eyes on North Carolina. Matt Baker he did some FOIA. He couldn't find out any information on if North Carolina has proceeded to hire counsel, a consulting firm. I can tell you from our from what we know here at Peek Around the Corner, we know nothing on North Carolina. Obviously, we have a connection there. Money perch stuff, and we have somebody in the halls that have been telling us. We have a receipt on some communication inside of North Carolina. We talked about that. But we don't know anything about outside counsel, or if they talking to a private equity, or if they've got a group of lawyers already. We don't know. We don't know here at Peek Around the Corner. Wish we did. Now, we did get some info on Monday night. Again, Monday live show. That Monday, well, we actually got a tip, and then we followed through on it, and we announced yesterday that we believe that closed session meeting tomorrow is the starting block of North Carolina becoming engaged with the Board of Governors. Kerry Gold knows. Hey, guys and gals, smash that like button. Thank you so much for your generosity. Kerry Gold knows, helping us keep the lights on. Thanks for reminding everybody we're almost at 100,000 smashes of the like button in 21 months. I appreciate all you guys smashing the like button. But smash it if you like the content. Thank you so much, Kerry Gold knows. Jacobra Cat, if the SEC is the Leonardo DiCaprio and UNC is Kate Winslet, ordering Jack to draw her like one of his French girls. I think that's kind of beyond me. I'm not really sure. I don't even remember that movie, to be honest. That's the Titanic, right? Is Jack Leonardo DiCaprio? But anyways, Jacobra Cat, I do appreciate your generosity, your super chat. I do appreciate your creativity-ness. Right? I love that here at Peek Around the Corner. I think you're talking about, I'm not sure what you're talking about, to be honest. It might be the Titanic. I don't know if French girls were on the Titanic. Was Jack drawing her a picture? But I get the connection. SEC, UNC. Appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much, Jacobra Cat. Thank you so very much. The BOT meeting right now, I wonder if I still got the agenda listed. I wonder if I still got it here. No, that is for tomorrow as well. They do, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Board of Trustees meeting. We don't think today is, we don't believe today is of importance on what we're interested in. Now, maybe we're wrong, but we were told that Wednesday is not the day of importance. It's tomorrow, Thursday. But if we messed up, we get some reporting on what's going out there at UNC Board of Trustees meeting. We'll cover it. But I think tomorrow is the important for what we are interested in. Okay, so the aftermath of Amelia Island. Nicole Auerbach, let's start there. Jim Phillips says the ACC contract with ESPN runs through 2036 and says the partnership is not going away, even with what he describes as a look-in clause and some details that need to finish getting worked out. Um, Now, Phillips is describing it as a look-in clause. The Florida State lawyers are calling it an option. Those two things are different. I don't know if Jim Phillips is not telling the truth or Florida State is misrepresenting, or I don't know. I do not know. Obviously, I don't have the ACC ESPN media contract in front of us, right? We really don't know. Or I'll say I don't know. Now, the Florida State case, there's a lot of parts to it. One of the big parts, though, is to say that the ACC the ESPN has an option to decline, to walk away. And therefore, because they have that option, that the grant of rights should not run all the way to 2036. A look-in clause is where both parties get to look in, negotiate, talk it over. I have always been, and I've been the minority here in the PATC community, I've always been under the impression that the ACC is not going to ESPN is not going to walk away from the ACC. We don't think they're going to decline. We don't think they're just going to walk away. Do they establish a more thorough, detailed composition clause? Is ESPN and ACC looking at the finer details to finish getting worked out on composition? In other words, there's a sliding scale on if somebody leaves the ACC, if there's a settlement between the ACC and some ACC schools, then the numbers get adjusted, and then based on who comes in as a backfill. Are there talks between ACC and ESPN to make sure the ACC survives before the ACC goes to the negotiating table, before they go to the mediation table in Leon County, before the ACC even opens up the chance of acting on negotiating a settlement with Clemson, Florida State, possibly others? It very well could be. I do not know. I do not believe, and I might be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll take the L. But I've been saying for a long time, I don't think ESPN is I don't think we're going to wake up tomorrow and ESPN declines ACC's content. Now, I know there's been a lot of reports out there saying that there's from Florida State insiders saying that that some schools know that ESPN is walking away, but not everybody knows, something like that. I don't think those are accurate. I didn't think they were accurate then. Definitely don't think they're accurate now. I don't think ESPN has told anybody that they're walking away. I don't think they're walking away. But are they fleshing out some details just in case Clemson and North Carolina, Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina, just in case schools start writing a check of a certain amount, they got a big old sliding scale going on? I think maybe that's part of it, but I'm not sure. I'm interested to hear what you all have to say, but I don't think they're walking away. And I know most people have believed that here at PATC and other YouTube channels. I don't see how ESPN does, because they're making money, and they're going to make sure they make money on this contract, and they're going to continue to make money on this contract. They make money on the ACC network. And if they have to readjust the numbers based on some sliding scale of a more detailed composition clause, they will do that. But I don't think they're walking away. Matt Baker. ACC Commish Jim Phillips is chatting with us at the end of the league spring meetings. Says it's really, 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 really good to have California, Stanford, and SMU here. I don't blame Jim Phillips for saying that. Right? He was able to backfill, before anybody leaves, he was able to backfill 2 Power 5 programs at the time, California and Stanford, and SMU was able to grease the skids for everybody by not taking tier 1, tier 2 media money for the next 9 years. So yeah, I can understand why Jim Phillips feels good about that. There are schools in the ACC that do not feel good about that. The 3 schools that voted against expansion: Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State. Matt Baker. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips on Florida State and Clemson litigation. It's difficult. It's disruptive. It's harmful. But that's the world we live in. Difficult, disruptive, harmful, but hey, that is the world we live in. Matt Baker. Phillips says the ACC is 3rd in revenue distribution among conferences. That's important. It just is. He also says we're not standing still. Obviously trying to close the gap with the Big Ten and the SEC. I don't think you're standing still, ACC. I think you're dropping further and further behind. The college football playoff money, the distribution model shows that. Now, I'm not saying the ACC had any power to do anything about it, but I don't think they're standing still. I agree with Jim Phillips. I think they're falling further and further behind. A little bit. And also with voting rights and everything else. And I don't think Clemson and Florida State, Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina care that ACC is 3rd in revenue or 4th in revenue. I don't think they give a lickety split about that. I think what they care about is the gap. Is that gap, that revenue gap. USC called the Big Ten. They called the Big Ten alone because they needed to get above the revenue stratification line to compete at the highest level of college sports with direct funding, direct revenues, revenue sharing going from the schools, conferences to the student athletes. USC did not care if the Pac-12 was 5th in revenue, which they were, 4th in revenue, 3rd in revenue. It didn't matter. USC called the Big Ten because they wanted to see if they could get above that stratification line. That's what Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina are looking at, a few others. In 6 to 7 years from now, they want to make sure they're above that revenue stratification line. So when Phillips says the ACC is 3rd, it doesn't mean anything. Now, it would mean something. Once some of the top ACC schools, the most valued ACC schools, once they leave to the Big Ten or the SEC, then it's going to be important. The new structure, the new composite ACC versus the Big 12, who has the leverage to poach from whom, Now that becomes important. But North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State does not care if ACC's third, tied for third, fourth all alone. It's about the gap. It's about the gap. Matt Baker. Phillips says the ESPN deal runs through 36. They're working internally on a piece, which he said was a look-in. Florida State lawsuit says it's an ESPN option. Phillips said the ESPN partnership isn't going away. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree with me because they've been disagreeing with me for months. I don't think ESPN's going away. I bring up this tweet because we've already covered it in another tweet, right? But I wanted to bring this up because, again, this is speculation on my part. 100% speculation. But I got a feeling. Phillips says the ESPN deal runs through 36. They're working internally on a piece. Let me ask the PATC community, answer it in the chat, or give me a phone call after the monologue is over. What does Phillips mean when he says they're working internally on a piece? Now, they've already added the ACC network. They've already got the Tier 1, Tier 2 contracts to go out to 2036. What is that piece that they're working on? I think that it may have to do with this a very detailed spreadsheet, sliding scale, algebra. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Whatever this is, to have it in writing, to have it ready to go. What are the numbers? What can we do? What is it going to look like if we lose school A, B? If we lose school A, B, C, D, what would we need in return? What would the media contract look like going forward? What are the possible targets if we have to backfield for a couple more? I think that's the piece. Am I crazy? I might be crazy. Let me know if I'm crazy. Yeah, exactly. He says the piece is the looking. But what are they looking in? What is the piece? What are they looking at? What are they looking at? I think they're looking at what does it look like in the future? What do they need to have? I think it's a detailed composition clause. That is my guess. Speculation only. They're looking at something, guys. You just don't have a look in and sit at the table and look at each other. Right? It's a look in. Now, I suppose maybe part of the look-in, as they've talked about it before, is that they decide to go to 8 conference games to 9 conference games. That has been voted down every time. I don't think ESPN is interested in that. They're not interested in paying for more on that on the SEC side of it. So I don't think that's it. But that's a potential possibility, I guess. Yeah, I think they're working on something just in case, scenarios, spreadsheet, sliding scale. That's my take on it. Let me know what your take on it is in the chat or with the phone calls. Phillips on the UNC Board of Trustees. I can't get into the local dynamics. Nobody's reached out to me or the conference office relative to that. Calls it campus politics. Now I wonder, remember how the ACC had that lawsuit ready to go against Florida State? Florida State had been making some noise. The Board of Trustees had a meeting, an open session, made some noise, said that you're going to be hearing from us real soon, having to do with their ACC membership. And then they had that meeting on December 22nd and filed a lawsuit against the ACC. What we found out later is on December 21st, the ACC had it all ready to go, filed a suit against Florida State and Mecklenburg County. And then they turned around and filed a lawsuit really quick after Clemson did it in Pickens County. I'm wondering if the ACC has something written up for North Carolina, getting ready possibly. Down the road, who knows? The ACC, Brett McMurphy, the Action Network. The ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips on the UNC Board of Regents advocating to leave the league. Those are campus discussion and politics. I don't know what's true and what's not. Brett McMurphy. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips. If Florida State and Clemson relationships can be salvaged, that's the question. This is Jim Phillips. You always stay optimistic and work through these things. I don't know where it's going to go, but I continue to remain optimistic. I'm going to fight and protect the ACC, absolutely. Now, the only reason I bring up this post is when I read it, it kind of hit me. It kind of hit me square in the face. Jim Phillips could have said anything here. A lot of these are just words, right? You always stay optimistic. You work through these things. I don't know where it's going to go. But it's how he finished the statement. He says, but I continue to remain optimistic. I'm going to fight and protect the ACC, absolutely. He did not say, I'm going to fight and try to maintain the status quo in the ACC. I'm going to try to show that we're growing confidence to Florida State. He didn't say any of those things. He said, I'm going to fight and protect the ACC, absolutely. And again, I'm going to bring this up, and a lot of people think I'm nuts. Probably. But I think when he talks about fighting to protect the ACC, I think it's two-pronged. One is in the courts, and the other one, I think he's working it out with ESPN. He basically said they're actively working on a piece to look in. They're working on something, getting out the details. I think that's what this is about. Phillips on future college football playoff revenue distribution. When you look at the metrics used, that's what we've performed. 17, 18, 19% level. We negotiated hard. Do you love it? No. But it's better than where we started. But I understand it causes an even greater gap. That's what I say. You're not really standing still. You're falling behind. And did you really, you negotiated hard. Okay, I understand that. You're up against it. Not much you could do at that time. But did you push hard? Did you go to bat for Florida State like Greg Sankey did for Alabama? For Georgia? Jim Phillips was MIA, missing in action. The days, the week prior to the playoff committee selecting who was going to be in the Final Four. So you negotiated hard after the fact, but man, you did not show any tactics, any energy, any time invested, any loyalty, any commitment. You didn't show anything, any of that to Florida State and to the ACC. To me, that's the harsh reality of it. And then finally, Phillips says it's important schools have flexibility in how they might invest in potential revenue sharing with reported House settlement. I asked if there were talks about tying conference revenue distribution to how much schools will spend. He said not to this point. This is David Hale. And again, we reported here, peek around the corner. I think that's going to be so fascinating to watch. Because I don't think any one athletic department's going to look the exact same as the other athletic department. They're all going to be prioritizing things a little bit differently within their football revenue budget, revenue salary cap, whatever they decide on, how much they're going to spend, what they're going to spend it on, basketball, other sports. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. The people that they hire to manage all that, because there's no way the athletic director is going to do that. There's no way a coach can do that. There's going to be a general managers that are going to be getting paid a lot. They're going to be under fire. They're going to get praised. They're going to get criticized for how they're managing the roster management, the money, how they're handling the salary cap. It's going to be very, very interesting and fascinating. We're going to open up the phone lines. We are not going to, we're going to cut this monologue off. We're just going to open it up, let it rip. What do you think about that look-in? What are they actually working on? I think it's the composition clause. Trying to get ahead of the game. If we lose these schools, how much is ACC going to pay the rest of us to go to 2036? And I think it's going to be structured. I think it's going to be a sliding scale. I think emotions are going to be taken out of it. It depends how much North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State are going to pay to get out. But I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, the phone line is open. The phone lines are open. I do believe that, number one, Florida State isn't going to come out anytime soon and say we're leaving the conference. Florida State, Michael Alford just said yesterday, we haven't said we're leaving the conference.
Call from
Richard Brookins.
Richard, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say that I think that the whole ACC situation is ridiculous. You have a commissioner who is suing conference teams who have real issues. So instead of trying to work it out, and believe me, the ACC has brought this on themselves. FSU and Clemson have been complaining for years about getting unequal revenue. And the bottom teams did not want to give it away because, well, it's money and nobody wants to give up money.
Mm-hmm.
So what they've done is they're going to give away the two top teams, maybe the three top teams. Who knows? But I sure wish he had fought as hard for FSU at the college football playoff as he's fighting against them now.
Yes, good point. And a great way to say it. Yes, sir.
Well, that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to get my voice in before the phone lines heated
You
up.
got it. I appreciate it, Richard. Great call. Please call again. Okay?
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. I mean, I got that. I got that from reading what Phillips said about we worked hard, negotiated hard. We did better. You should have seen where the negotiations started at. I improved it. That's what Jim Phillips is saying. But man, he did not work hard to get Florida State. He did not.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate is on the line. The floor is yours.
Well, I'll try to be as quick as possible since I'm calling in so early this time. Just to answer your question, though, I think the look-in is exactly what Florida State has told us it is. He didn't deny any of that. I haven't seen any quotes saying that, well, Florida State's not true. It's not like that. So it tends to make me think it is like that, and he's just not touching it.
I don't. What was that again?
Florida State has said that their terminology was that there's an opt-out clause.
Yeah.
2027 that has to be decided, very detailed. This, not detailed. And he didn't even, touch upon what Florida State saying, oh, it's not like that. He's basically respecting the trade secrets. He's putting it out in a way in which is safe. And he can't touch upon that and say it's not true if it's true. So my leading to believe of this is exactly that. Now, maybe some of the details said by Florida State are not full and complete, and there is some both ways, but it seems to me like ESPN is just not willing to go in on that without knowing what the conference is going to be for another, 9 years after that time period of 2027 to 2036. So, if they're working on that, what he says is true, that they're working on that. I think that's a statement of we're working to try to figure out who's going to be in this conference in the future, because we're not going to get anything out of ESPN until we offer that. I agree with you that ESPN is not trying to get out of business with the ACC. I just don't think that they're willing to continue paying them the same after they lose, say, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and some others.
Yeah.
So they're not going to make any kind of an agreement now while the conference has all those powers in it.
Sure.
So,
I agree.
To me, the only answer to this is if they're really trying to work on this, like he says, then that's kind of code signal for, all right, we're starting to try to figure out the numbers for getting these schools out, because we have to figure out our business with ESPN. Yeah. And we have to do it by February of next year if what Florida State said is true.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's almost like I could be completely wrong. It's just by speculation. I haven't obviously heard what they're talking about, but it would make sense that at some point, if there is to be negotiations, if there is to be within the mediation, a judge, whatever that setting is, you would think that the ACC would go into there knowing what they need, knowing what their media partner needs, they need to have their ducks in a row before they start going, what do you want? How do you want to do this, North Carolina or Florida State? How much you will? They have to have their ducks in a row, to me, to make sure that the rest of the conference to do the best they can for the rest of the conference to survive in the future, to get as much money as they can. They're not going to get anywhere near what they're getting now. But then you get some money from the exit, right? Yep. They have to have their ducks in a row. I'm thinking maybe that's going on right now. I could be wrong. But with ESPN, they're trying to get their ducks in a row just in case things go pear-shaped for the ACC, just in case, whatever. Just getting something down on paper. Not an agreement, but getting some sort of something ready, their ducks in a row before they get into real negotiations, which might not happen for another 6 months. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot still unknown. Just kind of looking at that little comment because, you know, people can think what they want about Jim Phillips. I don't think he's a particularly great commissioner, but I do think he's pretty good at picking his words. And I think you can look into those words and pick a few details out. Like I said, if they're working on that particular aspect, what he is talking about is the 2027 opt-in clause, look-in, whatever they want to call it. And they have to get that figured out by February of next year. They're not getting another big-time meetings opportunity like this, which is already scheduled. I mean, there's some future, but this is like the big business meeting, you know. This is when we got the Magnificent Seven. This is in these off times, the off hours, so to speak, for the schools. So I think that they have to be working on that. If what he is saying is true, which maybe it's not, but if what he is saying is true, is that they're working on that clause, then they have to be working out who's going to be in the conference and who's not. And as you say, if that's the case, then yeah, they got to figure out numbers. They got to figure out what are we going to let you out for, because, you know, the fight over numbers and how high or how low it's going to be, that's got to wrap up at some point. At some point in time, you got to sit there and say, okay, this is our position. This is how much strength we have in this. This is what we'll go with. You got to get a yes on both sides. And once you have that, I mean, we got Florida State and Clemson leaving. Does that North Carolina as well? Does that mean if they're doing this soon, that means the North Carolina Board of Governors is probably going to be successful in their attempt, which means North Carolina State, if ESPN and FCC, you know, all of this works in line. I don't know, but that's probably reading a lot into a little bit. But that's, in my opinion, what has to be going on here, and might also explain why nobody's been kicked out of any rooms so far.
Yeah.
Everyone has to be part of those discussions.
Yeah. Great point. Absolutely great point. While Florida State and Clemson were not kicked out of any meetings at Amelia Island. So, very good point.
And a little tidbit to add to that I just found that came out this funny is Brian Murphy reports, get ready to pay more for parking on UNC's campus for events. Board of Trustees set to allow maximum fee of $100 for event parking, up from $20. That's a 5 times boost. I mean, you think that's not going to make people angry about their situation when they say, well, our budget deficit, our money situation where we currently are is making us have to do this.
Yeah.
You want to build a bottom up, you know, ground up push to move. You do something like that. This just came out. I just had to chuckle at it. Like, well, that's one way to make money, but it's also a way to get everyone to decide, yeah, we got to move, because it's hurting their pocketbook.
Yeah. That's just another way to get, you know, it's like student fees.
Everyone pay
doing
attention now.
And run around it. Go ahead.
Yeah, because most people don't pay attention to this stuff.
Yeah.
But when they show up and they got to pay $100 instead of $20, they're going to start asking questions.
Yeah.
So one last thing, I'm out of here, buddy. I just want to say, you know, what a hell of a conversation online about the whole North Carolina State and Virginia thing. It's been fun. I just want to say the one thing that I take from this that I actually think really matters. All the rest of it's just, you know, kind of whatever. But does this not mean that it's now less likely for both Virginia and North Carolina State to go to the SEC? Are you trying to create that kind of scheduling baggage for the SEC when you're trying to get them to say yes? To say, oh, and by the way, you need to figure out on these dates how to make Virginia and North Carolina State part of the SEC schedule. I mean, does that not make North Carolina State and Virginia both go into the SEC now less likely? Not impossible, but less likely?
I guess. Yes. In theory, yes.
Yeah, in theory. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying if you're doing percentages of potential, you're setting odds. To me, that puts the odds less that both Virginia and North Carolina State are going.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I
Beautiful.
got for you, man. Interesting stuff. We're looking
Yep.
forward to see if you want to stay on it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Great call, Mr. Hot Guy. They get one of the many games I'm looking forward to watch. Tennessee. You must be from Tennessee because you're the only 10 that I see. Tennessee, North Carolina State, Charlotte, North Carolina. 7:30 Eastern Time. ABC Duke's Mayo Classic. Big game. Big game. Saturday, September 7th. Holy smokes. I'm all fired up for that one. You know what team I'm taking. I'm taking North Carolina State. Give me the points. Greg the Heater, give me the points. I don't care. I'm not sure what the line is. I think, do I have that listed somewhere in my computer? I don't think I do. No, I don't. Don't have it anymore. Anyways, Tennessee, North Carolina State, that has just come out.
Call from
Crab cakes and football.
Crab cakes and football. The floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
I'm in traffic and I'm in construction, so perfect time to call you. Did you, before I get to what you're talking about, did you see that Calamoni update from yesterday?
Yeah, $10 million for 3 years.
And they're going to have a look-in clause there as well at 27.
Yeah.
But now it depends on who you read from. You read one set of tweets, they're like, oh no, it could be 10 or 20 million that they're going to owe per year. If you read another set of tweets, they struggle to even agree on to even get the Calamoni that they got. So that's another soap opera going on right now.
Well, and I know John Wilner, who's been doing a great job reporting of it, he says it's a victory for UCLA because they cut it down to 3 years. And I was in the midst of retweeting that and saying something to Mr. Wilner, but then I said, nah, I'm not going to do it. But it's not a victory for UCLA. What is stopping the Board of Regents, California, Berkeley, from adding another 3 years on, another 6 years on it? Everything they're doing is ex post facto, whatever that legal phrase is called. I think it's, man, I want to say it. I think it's criminal. Wrong. I think it's criminal what's going on. Okay, maybe not criminal, but just unethical.
Well, one of the board of directors or regents or whatever they're called there even said that no time in history have they ever had to subsidize another campus, like this, and that this is dangerous precedent that's being set.
I think it's terrible.
Yeah, so do I. Now, as for your look-in and everything for the ACC contract, it's one of two things, and one is either they're just waiting to see what the structure is going to look like of the ACC with or without certain teams, whether it just be the two teams, Florida State and Clemson, or whether it be a whole host of teams. You know, Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and then add 2 or 3 others here, Miami. So I think that is what the bottom. I think, and I pretty much put both answers into one answer there. I think that's what the look-in has to be, because they can't agree on a number without knowing the number of teams they're going to have that they're going to be able to feature. And the more that they take away the brand from each, it's just going to lower. And now Jim Phillips has a decision to make. Does he go back to the lesser teams, the ones that were left behind, whatever you want to call it, and say, hey, you're only going to get 15 to 20 million a year now because all these brands left? Or does he sit there and let it go to the free market and hope that they can get a better deal from maybe a Fox or some other entity or something at some point, because he's got to help his teams make money. I mean, on their team. So that might be an impending decision for him. I'm not saying he's not going to go with ESPN, but if the number drops too low, he might not have a choice. So, you know, and I know an idea at one point in time was being thrown around that everybody, you know, market themselves and get what they can from. Maybe that's the opportunity for the ACC to do just that. Hey, how much am I worth for you to play my game? So, you know, it might not be that much, but, you know, that's another opportunity. Yep. What do you think about that?
Yep. Gotta take every possible opportunity, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes you're scraping for every penny, basically. And it's important that the universities, the athletic departments, the presidents, the athletic directors, it's important that they see a commissioner try to take advantage of every possible scenario in getting extra money for the conference.
I just don't know if Jim Phillips is the man for the job to do that. Like you pointed out, and you know, he didn't even fight for Florida State when he clearly had a case for Florida State being 13-0.
Yeah,
he was nowhere to be found. I mean, I'm glad the Big Ten never went with him. I know he was on the list, short list.
Yeah.
I'm glad we never picked him. You know,
yeah.
Say what you want about Petiti, but he sounds like he's worse.
Yeah.
And but my last thing I'm going to say, I want to go back to yesterday's conversation about Kansas. Do you think this is a real possibility Kansas goes to the SEC, or do you think that's a wake-up call for certain teams in the ACC? Hey, either get on and get yourself involved in this lawsuit to get out, or we'll go to Kansas as one of our three. Or
no, I think it's more of it could be that cloak and dagger stuff a little bit. But no, I think it's a real, if the SEC goes to 20, I think Kansas is in play. We don't have them as a chalk to go to the SEC. We don't have them as the favorite 20th school, but we think that we definitely think that they're in play, and there are other people who think that too, but they just have no reason to report on it yet. We definitely think that they're in play.
Because I thought them poaching the Big 12 was done unless they totally went to the two, North,
here's the thing.
NFC, AFC model.
No, here's the thing. Again, the information that came in on Kansas being in play, if the SEC decides to go to 20, there was a lot of information attached to that. And one of the big parts of it was Greg Sankey is of the belief that the basketball value is going to shoot upward. So that's a change. And obviously that favors, that helps the value of Kansas. Plus all the things that Kansas is doing. They're spending hundreds of $millions on football renovation. So things change, right?
Correct.
So that's, now again, we're not saying Kansas is going to the SEC. We right. believe, we feel very comfortable in saying that they're going to be in play. They're going to be one of those candidates. The SEC might go all 4 ACC schools. They might just only take 2 schools and not go to 20 for the next 20 years. But if they go to 20 in the next wave, Kansas is in play, because it doesn't look like, it is, Greg Sankey agrees with Brett Yormark that the value of a basketball, big time basketball, like a school like Kansas, is going to shoot upward.
I agree 100%. All right, man, I want to get off here. Let you go. I know you got other callers probably trying to get through, but
appreciate
all right, man.
it.
Thanks for answering my questions. Later.
You got it. Thank you. Great call. Yes, it has, Tony. Yes, it has. And people think in the new world where student athletes are going to have binding contracts and basketball schools are going to really benefit. All those theories, we'll see what happens. People are banking on that basketball the viewership's going to go up. The storylines are going to get more created. They're going to have more enduring storylines. Women's basketball is going up. They think men is as well. We'll see if they're right.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
How you doing, sir?
Doing good. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine,
Good.
Got a few disagreements here.
Beautiful. I love
rephrase
disagreements. Agreeing with the fat guy from Minnesota is boring. Absolutely boring. Go ahead, sir.
Well, there were a few things that I was going to address, but Immaculate already touched on them, and so I'm not going to rehash those. I don't see how a look-in has to be extended 4 years. If you can have a look-in and it's not a determined time frame, then it doesn't need to be extended. You can do a look-in at any point. Now, there is contractual differences between a look-in and an extension. So we've been getting a lot of misinformation from the ACC for years. I'm not really going to accept everything that Jim Phillips is saying at face value. But I also, to be fair, when you're at a conference meeting, why are you going to state things that are going to cause even more instability? You're not. He's going to try to rally the troops as best as he can, which is logical, So for all the anger I've had towards the ACC over the years, it's not like I don't want those teams to be able to continue on and exist. And if I've ever been one of the ones that in the past has said that ESPN's going to walk away, I mean from the deal. In other words, the current deal won't continue in its current form. I fully believe ESPN is still going to be a partner with the ACC. I absolutely believe that. They need content, and they've had a good partnership over the years, so they're going to continue that. For anyone who might not know, and I'm okay to out myself, you and I've had some friendly interaction on Twitter because of the FSU talking about announcing this summer. I've heard that
they're going to leave the conference.
Announcing their exit, which of course wouldn't take effect till next year.
Yeah.
I've heard that from so many sources, and we're not talking about message boards.
Yeah.
I mean, I have heard this all over the place. I have heard, and the other aspect of it, I'm asking people, I'm throwing a wide net out there. And we're not talking about just online stuff. I'm throwing a wide net for somebody to tell me it's not true. I ain't had one person do it. Not one.
Well, Greg Flugar.
Well, you know.
Yeah.
You've even had some people say, "What's up with Bud Elliott?" You know, Bud Elliott has gotten a little salty in the last few days, and he put out something the other day, and this might not mean anything, okay? You know, but he had made a reference the other day, and he posted that little children's book, The Little Red Hen, and he references that when FSU, or he said later this summer, this is how the ACC is going to feel, or something along those lines. And you can go and read it.
You say he's got me blocked.
Okay.
And I just asked a simple question and he blocked me. I don't quite understand.
I got you.
So, anyways, go ahead. I guess he's got like hundreds of people blocked. So, but anyways, go ahead.
I don't know. don't know. But you know, Bud Elliott's an FSU guy.
Yeah, I know.
And Bud Elliott's business partner in the Nolecast is Ingram Smith. Mm-hmm. Well, Ingram Smith is the head of the Battle's End. He's CEO. So some of their advertisers, at least one of them I know for sure, is one of their biggest one of FSU's biggest boosters, and I'm talking about a high dollar guy. So I'm not saying him posting that means anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just other people have brought that up to me. Like, did you see that? And then other people that are tied in that have regular communication with people at FSU are saying the same thing, you know. So you're throwing the net out there. Those statements were being made last week that FSU intends to win, or they will announce this summer if there's no settlement. So that raised my eyebrows, and it continued, and it continued, and it continued. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Well, but
I'm
Mike,
looking for
okay.
somebody. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, what about Michael Alford's statement this week?
That's just a public statement. I mean, that you don't go up into the reporters and say that we're absolutely leaving, because in court,
I know, but
in court
you don't.
they've made it clear they haven't formally given their announcement. If he says we're leaving, that could be construed as a formal announcement. And here's the caveat that I have heard. Okay,
got it.
If the framework of a settlement or settlement is farther along, it is farther along, that could pause an announcement. And what people are saying, and I've heard this in multiple places, is that there's negotiations that have been going on for a bit. And so the fact of I don't know how far that's gotten. I don't have a clue. But part of what's going on with some of these statements is public pressure. I think they want it out there, and I don't think they're bluffing. Because the way they look at it is this: well, it's going to take a while to get this worked out anyway. Mm-hmm. So if we go ahead and announce this summer, okay, then we've got a year, or we've got 6 months to get it worked out. There were people that said there are contingency schedules in place for multiple teams going into the P2 if it was to happen. The networks have worked it out. Just contingencies if teams could break loose sooner. I don't know if that's true. But the people saying it are people I would believe what they're saying.
Okay.
So,
well,
can all that get worked out? I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, couple of things. One is, I do think it matters what Michael Alford says in public. When he says we haven't asked to leave the conference, I don't think he's going to say that in public if he's thinking in another month or two we're going to flip the script and say now we are out of the conference. But anyways, leave that aside. Florida State in their pleadings to the court has already said if we get a declaratory statement on the ground of rights and whatever, that the gore is invalid, that we want our withdrawal notice of the conference to go back to August 15th in 2023. So Florida State's already got it in the system where if they win a victory in the court somehow in the next year, that it already goes back to where they're out of the conference with the withdrawal notice. I asked this, and I'm going to ask you again, and anybody in the chat room, I still don't understand any benefits that Florida State gets if they file a notice of withdrawal. I don't understand one benefit from it, because I don't think it changes anything the ACC doing. I don't think it changes anything ESPN's doing. I think they just go on their merry way. And I think only if you file the notice of withdrawal, then you got to have all the money ready for the exit for the next 30 days. You don't get any asset from the ACC bylaws. You don't get any revenue, assets. You don't get anything. And currently, Florida State, we'll see if that changes. They're getting all that money. Doug Rohan thought it wasn't going to happen this summer. He's put it out there. He said he didn't think Florida State would would file notice of withdrawal. He said maybe next year, if things aren't looking better or whatever, but he didn't think it was going to happen either. Anyways, that's just some, play devil's advocate. But go ahead, sir.
Well,
the floor is yours.
Here's the part that I don't fully understand. Okay, the people that have predicted exactly what's happening 2 to 3 years ago, not the exact dates, but how things would have to transpire. And this wasn't just one person, this was multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
That the lawsuit wasn't the mechanism going to be used to get out of the ACC. The lawsuit was just a means to an end to determine the final cost, or one of the aspects that would help determine the final cost. What does that mean? I'm not 100% certain. I've got some ideas, but they'll leave when they feel like they need to leave, and they feel like they have enough cover to do so.
Got it.
I've heard some other things. I'm not even going to go into it because and you it would take hours to explain because I'd have to give you a background to it. I'm not going to do all that, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying I'm waiting for pushback, and I haven't gotten it from anybody. And I've been pretty adamant the last several days that leaving messages here or there. Hey, have you heard something? Have you heard something? Have you heard something? And I don't get pushback from anybody.
Yeah. The Florida State lawyers pushed back in Leon County. They pushed back on the ACC.
They pushed back that FSU has announced they're leaving.
Yeah, they have not announced they're leaving.
Yeah, they haven't announced they're leaving.
Yes.
Plus, to your answer on, well, they've already put it in the pleadings. Well, if they leave this summer, the case won't be resolved, so it doesn't matter what they put in the pleadings.
Okay.
It doesn't matter because the case won't be resolved by this summer. Now, again, I have a feeling, and I don't have any confirmation of this, that settlement is farther along than we think. I'm not saying they're at the finish line, but, I have a feeling.
A feeling. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd do that because I'm not a very good singer. So I have a feeling that a lot of this is going to be a moot point anyway. The ACC, just as you talked about in the past, Clemson and Florida State need a long runway. The ACC needs a long runway too. Because, yes, the composition clause is one of the mechanisms that's going to be used to figure all this out. And you can't be in limbo. They need to know what they're going to get. They need to know what money's going to be available, how to allocate it.
Yep.
They've got to do new valuations.
Yep.
And all the rest of that. You say, why would FSU announce this summer? Okay. Well, one is to force the issue because all those negotiations have to be done anyway between now and next February.
That's the part where I get hung up. I don't think you're forcing anything by saying we're withdrawing from the conference. I'm having a hard time getting from there to where you're forcing anything to happen. All you're doing is forcing that you got to write a check a lot quicker, and it's got to be probably for the full amount, or you're going to go back into litigation about the ACC bylaws. You're not going to get any more revenue as a withdrawal school. What does ACC and ESPN do differently if Florida State says we're withdrawing from the conference this summer versus what's going on?
The ACC, when they're renegotiating or they're looking in February of 2025, to make that deal work and to figure all that out, don't you think they have to figure out what the composition of the conference is even going to be?
But from ACC and ESPN perspective, now they could be wrong eventually when it comes to the courts, but from their perspective, everything keeps going the way it is. ACC still owns the rights of Florida State. That's what they think if you leave the conference. It might not end up being true, but they believe that. ESPN's going to keep distributing Florida State content. Money's going to pass between ESPN towards the ACC, and the ACC is not going to give anything to Florida State because you're a withdrawn member. That's what's going to happen. I don't think you force anything on anybody. This is why I don't think there is a reason why Florida State did not start this endeavor, this long grind, by filing a notice of withdrawal. They determined that it was to their disadvantage if they did it as a member outside the conference. So did Clemson. And I don't know what, again, I don't know what happens, and I could be wrong, JD, but I still don't understand by saying we are no longer a member of the conference. I don't know what that forces upon anybody other than Florida State having to pay.
Some of my explanations are just my assumptions. There's people a lot smarter than me that know exactly what it is, and they just don't elaborate too much. Some of them are lawyers, and but they just don't elaborate too much. But they pretty much know the deal. I don't see the harm. People say, "What's the advantage?" I see some potential advantages. I don't see any liabilities or harm. I mean, let's see if the ACC pays, and I don't think this is a determining factor, but let's see if the ACC does a revenue payment on, I guess, June 1st or in June. The fact that things were somewhat cordial this week, to me, is encouraging. That I think that you have business people behaving like business people and trying to come up to a solution on things. That's what my hope is, because even if FSU can get out here without the case being resolved, there's still a lot more risk getting out without a settlement. There's still more risk. I still think they feel like getting out sooner is better. The landscape could change if you try to drag this thing out 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. Not going to let that happen. And there's some advantages on timing on getting out before the new members come in, before the deal is completely done, whatever else. If the ACC does withhold revenue, let's just say per se, let's say if they do withhold the revenue, well, what risk is there? They're not going to get any more money from the ACC anyway.
So we'll see what happens. I don't know why.
And they may
not know why the ACC would not pay Florida State.
They might not withhold revenue, and to be honest with you, like I said, I don't think that's the determining factor. Yeah, there's other factors and things like that, but again, I'm not here arguing that they should.
Yeah.
I'm saying I don't think it's rhetoric and unfounded rumors.
I'll say this, JD. If the ACC withholds revenue for Florida State, then I will start coming to your side on this, because now you're, I can understand.
Oh, well,
but hold on. But if you are a withdrawn member, you shall have no claim on assets, accounts, or income of the conference. If you withdraw, you're not getting anything. And Immaculate said ESPN can only distribute Florida State content if Florida State lets their production team in the building. Okay, then Florida State's not going to be on TV nor get any money. Again, I don't think the act of withdrawing from the conference forces ESPN or ACC to act anything differently going forward. It only puts the onus on Florida State to have to pay right away all their money that they owe, not get any money going forward, and I don't think it helps them in the courts when they've already argued that they're not a withdrawal member, so ACC, you can't sue us for damages, things like that. But I'll let you finish up the discussion, JD. Go ahead.
Oh, well, just be clear. I'm not arguing that they necessarily should take this approach. It's just when you hear it from over a dozen places that this is very likely to happen, and nobody disagrees, you start to take it seriously. And if they don't, they don't. And so understand, I'm not drawing my line in the sand here.
Got it.
But I'm. It's not I don't believe it's an empty threat, is what I'm saying.
You got it.
So, but have a good day, sir. Enjoy the show.
Beautiful,
show as
JD.
always.
Thanks for talking with me once again, sir. JD,
Have a good
Mr.
one.
Seminole. Beautiful. Ryan Willie, Greg, what would it take for you to sing On Wisconsin after Wisconsin retains the Axe? Well, there's 2 rules on that Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. Number 1, Wisconsin has to be the underdog going into the game, and you have to make a donation on the week before the game. And if Wisconsin beats Minnesota, if Wisconsin's the underdog going in the game, then if both those things happen, then Ryan Willie, I will sing On Wisconsin. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you once again for your continued generosity to the show. The Evil Badger is a very nice badger when it comes to this program. Kerry Gold knows 256 people. Holy smokes. Let's do our part, smashing the button, the like button. It only takes less than 5 seconds. Thank you for the super chat. Kerry Gold knows, another Seminole in the chat. Thank you, Kerry, for your kindness, for your generosity, for your friendship. Thank you so very much. Gene Watson, ESPN, holding the good football programs hostage here.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I wasn't planning on calling in because I don't know where I'm welcome with either you or the audience, but I did just want to chime in on one thing with the most respect possible and also appreciating great conspiracy theories. Sure, it's 2024, anything is possible, but realistically, the idea that the Big Ten has a contingency schedule available for this coming fall season is really difficult to imagine being realistic, because in order to do something like that, one, you'd have to have seriously inexperienced people at the helm who've not done realignment once yet, which is not the case here. Lawyers who are willing to do that. And an amazing logistical ability to know exactly what every single school's availabilities are to do it secretly without having to contact at least one person per university and hope that it wouldn't leak out.
Hold on. What is it? What? I don't even know what this conspiracy is.
Well, the thought was that there's schedules available should there be a sudden change and people leave the conference instantly to start a Big Ten schedule this coming season.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
That's been alluded to a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and I wish it would happen. It would be friggin' amazing, right? Because I want everyone to wind up in their conferences regardless of rivalries and settle this, to go back talking about other things as fascinating as this is. But logistically, even if you wanted to do that, and first you have to get past the realities of that opens you up to so much potential lawsuits from so many different entities, whether it's another conference, an individual team in that conference, whatever it might be, for all of the things that you talk about here and all the time. And it's just also pretty impossible to keep it that quiet that it wouldn't leak out from somebody's intern's friend's cousin who was tied to the one school that got a call and they lost their job. It's not a realistic conspiracy, in my opinion. And I know you've tried to be gentle about that. And yep, perhaps something's wrong there, but that's not happening. It's just not something they're going to do because there's going to be a file somewhere, whether it's printed or electronic. It's not going to be in all these people's heads. Now suddenly September 23rd is now Florida State versus whoever, or Clemson versus whoever on an open date. You have to kind of go back and figure out all the logistics to even have that as a plausible theory, and you instantly have too many people involved. So it's come up a few times, and it's an amazing conspiracy theory, and it would be amazing more if it happened, but like realistically, I just don't see how that's even a possible thing to have been done.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I don't know what your take is on that.
I don't think nothing's happening here. No one is no other schools joining the Big Ten for 2024. No schools becoming an independent program in 2024. A lot of stuff out there that just hasn't been. You know, we had this people reporting something about the college football playoff distribution model and everything. Somehow gave schools a two years to be able to move from a conference. There's a lot of things out there that it's people are kind of getting a little bit over the tip of their skis, in my opinion. But we'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah, and you know, for all these schools, you know, they beyond the scheduling part of it, I think you're 100% right. I don't see, other than wanting it to happen fast and you know the optics of it, I don't see any reason that Florida State, as a specific example, gains anything by taking another step at this time that would improve the timeline that they could still get if they waited a little bit longer. So I'm right there with you, and that's again not remotely a shot at them. I think that Doug is correct, and there's nothing to gain right now of material substance other than all of us being excited that another step has happened, right? But from a actual, this is going to change the game or advance and get 2025 as a possibility sooner, they still have plenty of time to take an action to make 2025 happen sooner.
JD said, I never said for 2024 season, and I did not mention your name, JD.
Yeah, and I'm not.
It's been other people out there, other YouTube
tons
channels,
of people.
And it's
all right,
fine.
2020.
Yeah, it's fine. But a lot of people are putting a lot of stuff out, and
2025 season 2, the same thing applies.
Yeah,
right.
So
it's the same legal risks would be there. The same amount of 2025 is actually harder to imagine because 2024 you could at least theoretically have an idea of who's already got slotted where, and maybe have the most recent history of what your open dates would be. So it's definitely not a J thing. I've read it like 35 times, right, on different message boards and different on different shows where that's come up. So it's not even remotely there. But it just triggered again when we were talking about it, just because of that specific reason. It's like you talking about not having a formal invitation. It's a corollary to that. Right? They can't have a formal invitation because of all of the legal ramifications of that, and because they can't do that, they can't figure out what a schedule would look like.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Anyway, thank you, sir.
I'm going to sign off. Have a good day.
You got it. Appreciate it. Rock and rant, Mr. Hurricane. India, Greg Pflugar, you're incorrect on your statement that if Florida State announces they're leaving the conference, that would not get any revenue moving forward. That's not correct. The announcement is 2025. You are correct. If Florida State made an announcement today that they're leaving the conference, that means they would not leave the conference until July 1st, 2025. You are correct on that. India said, first of all, thanks for joining us, India. I appreciate it. Florida State announcing they're leaving the conference this summer or not will still receive revenue for this calendar season. It's already committed to playing this season. They will get paid this year. You've got to look at the Big 12 bylaws. To withdraw from the conference, a member must file an official notice of withdrawal with each of the members and the commissioner on or before August 15th for the withdrawal to be effective June 30th of the following year. And so India is correct. Upon official notice of withdrawal, the member will be subject to withdrawal payment as liquidated damages in an amount equal to 3 times the total operating budget of the conference. So upon official notice of withdrawal, notice, not when you're officially withdrawn June 30th of the following year, upon official notice of withdrawal. The conference may offset the amount of such payment against the distributions otherwise due such a member for any conference year. Any remaining amount due shall be paid by the withdrawing member within 30 days after the effective date of withdrawal. So it would be what? August 30th. So you are correct, India. Thank you for correcting me on that. They would get paid for a while, according to the ACC bylaws. You are correct. I was mistaken. No question about it. Thank you, India. Kazano is reporting that Oregon State is in talks with the Big 12 to add gymnastics program to the Big 12. Very interesting. Tony says Florida State is not leaving the ACC without its TV rights, period. In other words, I think Tony's saying they're not going to file a notice of withdrawal until they know they have their TV rights with them. I agree, but we are in the minority.
Call from
Rob.
Is it Rob?
It is.
Rob, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
I've got a pretty simple question. So I'm curious if there's been any information leaked about what the buyout would be, what the settlement would be. Do you give any credence to Bubba Cunningham's comments? And I don't like Bubba one bit, but do you give any credibility to his comments when he was saying it should be more than $572 million? It should be 600, 700 million. I mean, is there some truth in his comments? Clemson's, I mean, they're clearly negotiating. I
don't know if they are or not, to be honest with you. I have not heard that there is any negotiations going on. I wish I knew, but of all the things I've reported here, that's not one of them. And
I should be better. Or Clemson tried to negotiate.
Yeah, true, and that did not get far. Look, according to what we've always considered to be the truth, to buy yourself out of the grant of rights, it would be pretty much all the money that you would have received in the grant of rights, whatever is remaining on that contract plus an exit fee. So yeah, it would be 500, 600, 7 million.
Okay, so
yep, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So ACC wins. Let's live in bizarre world. ACC wins. Clemson, FSU stuck. The people in power at those universities have said $40 million gap can't be made up by the donors.
Yeah.
What's the ACC outcome? We win in the short run, but we're dead in the future because we're going to kill our flagship programs. I mean, it's just. Yeah, I'd love to hear what Phillips has to say. We can win this case, but we're going to die.
Yeah, you're absolutely at some point. At some point, it benefits the ACC schools, the remaining ACC schools that can't get to the SEC or the Big Ten. They get some exit fee dollars, and in the same time have some decent long-term security under a new ESPN media contract, right? That's where that's the little bit of leverage that Clemson and Florida State has. What you just said right now, what are we going to do? Just keep Florida State and Clemson all the way to 2036, and then the conference completely disappears? You're absolutely
insane.
right. Like,
I mean, the only things that he can say are things that would never happen. Get Notre Dame to join, never. ESPN to open up the pocketbooks and be paid competitively to the Power 2, never. It's just, I'd love to hear when the other guy's asking the hard questions in Amelia Island, how he answers those.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know how Jim.
There's
I
nothing
get your
that
point.
he can say
point.
other than settlement. There's nothing. I mean, we're going to hang on this raft that's taking water and go. It's just there's nothing he can say other than settlement. And then, okay, how much are you talking?
Yeah.
We want $600 million. We want an amount that the schools won't agree to. It's insanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well.
Great call. There's got to be a number there, right?
I was just curious if you knew anything. I mean, Bubba Cunningham is the only one who's made any kind of comment about 572 isn't enough. It should be 600 or 700. So I was just curious what you thought.
Florida State in their first pleading mentioned the number 570 million. Like, this is what the ACC would expect us to pay, but we think it should be lower, right? So Florida State mentioned the number 570 million based upon math that they believe ACC would say, give us 570 million. Florida State don't want to pay that. They think it should be lower, and that's what all this is about. Whatever, but I haven't, look, the only thing I can say is that some conversations that I've had, people are guessing, but it's a guess. It's no inside information. It's not like we don't even know if they're even there. I don't even know if there's negotiations going on right now. But my guess, because talking to people who are a lot smarter than I am, say between 200 and 240 million. That's the sweet spot. Are they going to end up being right? Probably not. But I don't know what that number is.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah.
So, all right, man. I really appreciate the show, and you have a great afternoon.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know. Are they negotiating right now? I don't know. No idea. I know that I was told months ago, and I said this to you all, that who's ever negotiating for the ACC and the schools, they're not going to be people that we see in the courtrooms. They're going to be a different set of lawyers. It's a different skill set, and the circle is going to be so tight. There's not going to be any leaks. And I haven't heard anything. No one has said anything to me. So I wish we had information. Now, like a previous caller said, in the pleadings with Clemson and ACC said that they were about to talk about membership questions that Clemson had. They were going to negotiate. Sounded like the ACC were drawing up the paperwork. Clemson asked for, during the discussions with the ACC, not to be sued by the ACC. Clemson also asked for this not to leak, for this not to get out, for this to be done in secret between Clemson and the ACC. ACC agreed with that. They were drawing up the papers, and then out of nowhere, Clemson filed a suit against the ACC in Pickens County. That was in the ACC's first complaint pleadings in Pickens. I'm sorry. That was the ACC. That information was in the ACC complaint in Mecklenburg County against Clemson. So, and then we also heard a little bit about this, the Florida State lawyer, I think it was in the April 22nd hearing in Leon County. The Florida State lawyer presented emails, documentation to Judge Cooper. We were watching it. Some letters where ACC, some representative of the ACC, their legal counsel, talked about some sort of negotiations. Should we, something along negotiations, but then they shut down that conversation inside the courtroom in Leon County. So we know that there has been some dancing around, possibly negotiating. Clemson, Florida State, maybe. But have they sat down and started negotiations? I don't know. We know that Judge Cooper has ordered a mediation for Florida State and ACC to sit down and with the mediator. Florida State and the ACC were already supposed to have selected a mediator, but both parties asked for an extension of 60 days. That was about 20 days ago, because they're trying to choose the right mediator.
Call from
Tristan Fibes.
Tristan, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Hey there, Greg. Listen, I just wanted to say one thing real quick to you. Did you ever get the official date for the ACC to pay their 2023 media payouts?
No.
Okay.
Some people are saying June 1st.
Right.
Wait a second here. January, February, March. Wait. I don't know. I've heard June 1st, but I don't. That's not confirmed. I have not been able to. I don't know the answer.
Okay. Yeah, that was the date that we were talking about the last time we talked about this. I think that whatever that day is, we got to circle that down in the calendar, because people are talking about, well, they're going to get paid for their media. They've already played the schedule. I don't know that that's true. I think there's a real possibility that they withhold the revenue like they did with Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, it's already, gloves are already off, but we need to be talking about what will happen, if and when that media revenue is withheld. That's what we should be talking about. That might be one of the next events, because that June 1st is coming up pretty quick, and that's only a couple of weeks out.
Yes. And if that happens, then JD, Mr. Seminole, is going to be giving me a call saying, Greg, now why shouldn't we withdraw from the conference? And I think you would have a very good point. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I just wanted to remind everyone that that's a big factor here.
Yeah.
And that might be the triggering event that causes a lot of the things that we're talking about to happen. So, hey, listen, I'll let you go. I didn't have a lot more. I just wanted to throw that idea back out there for you to think about.
Beautiful. Great call. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Talk to you later. Bye.
You got it. We have breaking news. It's not breaking news. It was breaking news earlier today. Now, I know this is a college football YouTube channel, but my goodness, St. Thomas is joining the NCHC. Wow. The St. Thomas Tommies. Minnesota, St. Thomas. St. Thomas, their hockey program is just going to, again, there are 6 Division I hockey programs in Minnesota. Each and every one of them are a threat to win the national championship at any point. And St. Thomas is an emerging, they're a private institution. My cousin used to be the football coach at St. Thomas. They're now FCS. They are dominating where they're playing. They cannot qualify for playoffs, I think, for another 2 years in football. I don't think they can qualify next year for the FCS playoffs because they moved from Division 3 to Division 1. And that was part of the deal. St. Thomas got kicked out of Division 3 because they dominated. They just obliterated everybody. Hockey program, football program. Now they moved to one of the top hockey conferences in the country. The most successful one when it comes to championships of the last decade. St. Thomas going to NCHC. The football program, I don't know. I think at some point, we'll see what happens. At some point, they might be playing with the North Dakota State, the South Dakota State, South Dakota, North Dakota. I don't know. I think we're years away from that, but St. Thomas is not going anywhere. They're just an emerging athletic department. They got to rebuild everything there. A lot of donor. You're talking about money purchase? Holy smokes. St. Thomas money perch? They got a lot of money. They've got a ton of money. So don't worry about St. Thomas. It's just going to take, 10 years, 20 years. They got a small fan base, right? Because small private institution, but they dominate in sports. Their basketball program's done really good in Division 1. The 2 years they've been in it, just give St. Thomas a couple more years, and they're going to cause a lot of issues. Greg, you lost 15 viewers for that St. Thomas news break. Well, got to give some love for my St. Thomas Tommies. Got to give some, they're not mine, but got to give them some love. Sometimes I lose viewers. That's the way it goes. Thank you so much, Carrie Go Knows, for your super chat. Appreciate it. Appreciate your generosity. Minnesota Duluth is better than Minnesota. They also average about 3 years older than Minnesota in college hockey. They've got guys playing at Minnesota Duluth that are like 25 years old. That's what happened to St. Thomas Immaculate. They literally got kicked out. Google it, St. Thomas Tommies football. Just type in kicked out of conference. They got kicked out. So when they were getting kicked out, they said, let's just go to Division 1. And it's been quite the transition. Because it's a small, right? I mean, there's not many. It's a very small private school. But man, they've got money up the wazoo. Tony, 10 schools now in the NCHC. That's great for the league, great for the Tommies. I believe they're getting a new building as well. They're getting a new everything. The money is just coming in. Think of anytime you hear the word St. Thomas in hockey, basketball, and football, they're a minor, they're a mini Notre Dame. They are Notre Dame, but not in Indiana, in Minnesota. And they're just a little part of Notre Dame at St. Thomas in size. But, when you're competing at the FCS level and stuff like this, St. Thomas is going to be, they're going to cause a lot of problems. They're going to win a lot of games and a lot of sports. It's just the way it is.
Call from
57 Classic.
to accept.
I'm sorry, was it 57?
57 Classic.
57 Classic?
That's it.
All right, the floor is yours.
You know what I'm tired of, and Jim Phillips, and I'm calling from Tallahassee, by the way.
You got it, beautiful.
Jim Phillips keeps on pushing this 2036. I tell you what, I don't know if he knows who he's fooling with. Ashley Moody is fixing to go scorched earth on him.
Yeah. Yes.
And she's got Governor DeSantis 100% behind her.
Yes.
Greg, who serves who? I mean, wasn't the ACC supposed to serve its members?
Yes, sir.
So now we've got an organization that probably has, I don't know how many employees the ACC has, but they're trying to mess with a state university, two universities, Clemson and Florida State, that have thousands of employees, students, residents of the state of Florida and South Carolina. It's not going to happen. He better give up on the 2036 or I just don't. I mean, I can't understand why they can't get that through their head. But, you know, everything I hear from my sources in Tallahassee is we're out of there, and it's probably going to be sooner than people think.
57 Classic. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What number, if you were Richard McCullough, Peter Collins, Florida State, what number would you be okay with? The number that you think that Florida State would be willing to pay, USA Seminole would be okay with Florida State paying? What number do you believe the ACC would be willing to take? What is that sweet spot number to get a settlement done today? What do you think it is?
Well, you know, the problem is, let me hold on a minute.
You got it.
You know, I feel like we've already made them plenty of money. Us and Clemson has carried that conference in football for 20 plus years. So I don't think the number needs to be a whole lot.
Okay.
I mean, and how dare them think they're not going to pay us for our media day out? Oh, it's going to get ugly, but they have forgot about Ashley Moody. And I know you hadn't forgot about her, Greg, because I was watching your show when I really enjoy your show. I'm a member of it now.
I appreciate that. 57 Classic. Yes, I know Attorney General Moody. She might be running for governor here after DeSantis for 2026. So I think a lot of people, when she speaks, they got to listen to her. I think we can agree that she's got the backing of the governor's office in doing what she's doing, even though it's a separate office. So now she has sued the ACC in Leon County. It's in front of a different judge. It's a different court. So she's really active in all this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, also, you know, Disney makes a lot of money in the state of Florida. A lot of money.
Yes.
And, you know, they're tied in with ESPN. So, you know, you've said it before,
ESPN's calling the shots, and I really don't want to tell you what I think about them.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm ready to put on the Fox logo. You just tell me when.
Got it. All right.
So anyway, the number, I don't know. You know, I wouldn't give them a dime over 185, 200 million.
All right.
And so, but no.
185.
Just what, right on. And but what I get tired of is what's happened down there in Amelia Island with that little squirrel coming out and wanting to continue to push this 2036 narrative.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible. Take him to the train. He better, if he comes to Tallahassee, he better come on a bright day. A bright day.
Okay. All right, sir.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate you.
Beautiful.
Bye-bye.
Call again, 57 Classic. Okay? We need you to call again.
I'll try to be calmer.
No, you don't have to be calmer. You just have to call again.
Okay,
you
sir.
Understand?
We appreciate you.
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
listening, man.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Great call. Fantastic call. 57 Classic. Unbelievable. I hope he calls again. He's a member of the show. Beautiful. This PATC community is absolutely beautiful. Man, oh man. That was fantastic. If you're new to the show, if you haven't done so, please hit the subscribe button and then open up your notifications because we can come on live at any time. We might be coming on live again later tonight. Now, Wednesday nights are my most difficult part of the week to do a live show. Usually we have to do it in the afternoon. I think last Wednesday we did a show starting at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock Eastern. That went big time. We'll do it again. If there is some breaking news, we're going to come on live again tonight at about 11 o'clock Eastern time, 10 o'clock at night Central time. If it is worthwhile to do it, we go where the story goes in college football. We can't wait for the college football season to start. I did my top 5 G5 schools last week. I'm going to do something, my way too early predictions on one of the conference races. The problem is the Big 12 and the ACC has got me all screwed up. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Even for my way too early predictions, I don't want to be made looking like a fool. Greg the Cooler does not want to get any colder. But man, oh man, I have fallen in traps. I have fallen in love with some schools that historically don't really challenge for the conference championships. And I think I am going to get crushed. But once I fall in love, it's hard for me to fall out of love. That is one of the big reasons why I am Greg the Cooler, unfortunately. So we're going to be doing that later this week. Okay, listen. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Pacific. In the morning, we're going to be covering a live stream of the North Carolina Board of Trustees. Open session. I cannot promise you a rose garden. I cannot promise you if there's going to be any decent information coming out of there. I think there's going to be. Bubba Cunningham's going to be there. He's going to be answering questions, and I think it's going to happen in the open session. Lee Roberts, the interim chancellor, going to be talking. He has remarks. John Pryor, the chair, who's taking a couple shots at Bubba Cunningham in public, is going to be there. He's scheduled on the agenda to be making remarks. Meekins is going to be there. The whole gang is going to be there. The Board of Trustees. we're going to be covering a live stream coming right out of those meetings. So buckle up, brace for impact, and then later on, after the open session, they're going to closed session. And we've been tipped off that that closed session might be the starting block of UNC Chapel Hill engagement with the state of North Carolina Board of Governors. We do not know that for sure. We don't quite have all the dots connected because we don't have all the dots. But the couple of dots that we do have is leading us in that direction. So tomorrow is going to be a very, very, very interesting day. So please subscribe to our channel. Open up your notifications. Have them turned on. Please smash the like button. I want to thank everybody for their incredible generosity with their donation, helping us keep the lights on. Your incredible comments in the chat room and your fantastic phone calls, all of you, but especially 57 Classic coming in, telling it like it is. Love it. The passion of Florida State football, the passion of college football is what we do here at College Football's Peak Around the Corner. So keep your head on a swivel. Buckle up, brace for impact. We might do a show late tonight. If there's any more breaking news, things are percolating all over the place. If there's breaking news, we're going to be coming on late tonight. If not, the next time I see you, it will be tomorrow morning, PATC breakfast, UNC Chapel Hill, the Board of Trustees. Holy smokes. So until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.